Hello and welcome to our LinkedIn Live session. My name is Catherine and I'm the Director of the Business of Data team here at Corinium. Now, before we get going, a couple of things to note. Firstly, we don't produce live content like this for our own benefit. I would much rather it was pre-recorded, as it can be a little bit stressful from time to time. But we produce live content so you are afforded the chance to ask your questions in real time to our brilliant panelists. So get those questions in, use the comment section, ask those questions, and I'll be sure to put them to our panelists. As well as that, make sure you're subscribing to the Business of Data platform, where we will be popping this video on demand so that you can watch it later if you can't quite catch it all now, and do be sure to be following us on socials as well. So with that all being said and done, as I say, we have a brilliant panel for you and I'm going to bring them all up now. Everyone, welcome. Just bringing you all up onto the screen. So if I could ask you all to do a quick introduction of yourself. Katia, I'll begin with you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Catherine, for hosting this panel. I am Katia Walsh. I'm responsible for strategy and AI at the iconic brand of Levi, Strauss and Company, based in San Francisco, California, but coming to you from Europe.
Katia, welcome. Always a pleasure to host you. Christophe, hello, welcome. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Christophe. I'm working for Danone, leading the data analytics and AI team, so the data science for Danone. And pleasure to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much. Luiz, hello, welcome.
Hello, hi. Yes, I work for InBev. I'm currently the Global Vice President of Innovation. Thank you for the invite and really glad to be here.
You're most welcome. Sean, hello.
Hi, Sean MacCarthy, Head of Analytics and Segmentation for Claire's. And yeah, again, like everyone else, really excited to be sharing the stage with them.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, hello, Nico.
Hi, Catherine. Hi, team. Nico Catania, VP of Merchandising Solutions at Schnucks. So Schnucks is a mid-sized grocery retailer in the Midwest. We operate in 5 states with more than 100 stores. And I believe I'm the only grocery retailer. So I'm happy to speak about what 2020 presented to us today.
Thank you all so much. Really excited for this discussion. As I said there in the intro, do be sure to get your questions in to us via the comment section. Hello, Sean. Hello, Danielle. Hello, Amy. Thank you for joining us. It's lovely to have you here on LinkedIn Live. Now, as we've just said there, we're going to look at what 2020 brought us and the COVID era and all the various challenges that we saw present the retail and CPG verticals. We're also going to have a bit of a chit chat as to how 2021 has started out and how it's going to be looking in the future. And Sean and I was catching up before we went live, and we were actually talking about the very, very recent events of Texas, and we're sending our hearts out to everyone who's been struggling recently there particularly, and how we've had to adapt with our colleagues and peers there as well. So with the wider context set, let's dive in. So my first question to you, panel, are adapting to change in supply and demand. How have your data and analytics teams been supporting the wider business in this? I think it's fair to say this has been present for many of us. Katia, I'll come to you first for that one.
Well, thank you for that. First of all, we're still building a team around strategy and AI at Levi Strauss & Company, and 2020 was the first year for that team. So it was still very small and nascent, and between March and August, none of us on that team slept. I think maybe there was one night during that several months. We created a SWAT war room-like team all over the world with people as few as we had. They were all over the world, in London, in Shanghai, in Singapore, in Brussels, and San Francisco, New York. I may be forgetting the city or two, but we would meet at the unfortunate time of 6 a.m. my time in California, but we would have these daily stand-ups, virtual of course, and we would plan how we could actually not only respond to a crisis, but turn this crisis into an opportunity to be a true direct-to-consumer company while still staying loyal to our partners in wholesale and providing a deeper, even more personalized experience. One example of what we did there was that we enhanced the loyalty program for the Americas business. We actually, for the first time, were able to put together very detailed data profiles of all of our millions of consumers across the United States. And then we applied machine learning to determine the best benefits that each of our consumers would be interested in. And that led to a 40% increase in high-value consumers, fans, as we call them, of Levi Strauss & Company. So that's an example of personalization that we did in the midst of a crisis, and we turned that into an opportunity. We then took the opportunity to automate some repetitive but very important business processes. For example, we had to make very informed decisions about how we would keep stores safe and financially viable during a pandemic. Just because a store could be open doesn't mean it should be if it's not entirely safe. And we always put safety first for our consumers and our employees. This is a very caring company, but also it is a company that believes in profits through principle, so it has to be profitable. And just because the store can be open and it is safe doesn't mean that there are enough consumers to warrant the opening of that store. So there was someone whose entire job for 20 hours a week was to do analysis to determine whether and how a store should be open. We automated that and we saved that time, and that person is doing much more strategic things right now. It may sound small, but there's so many examples of that. Then we did some other work which gets straight to your question about demand and supply. What happens when a store is closed and there's all this inventory that is piling up? Do you discount heavily after you reopen, or do you do something else? In our case, we applied machine learning to determine the optimal pricing for each individual product that Levi's manufactures. In this case, this Levi's sweatshirt is a product. So we did that for every type of item that Levi's has. And yes, for some products, we had to offer discounts because there was this inventory that had piled. But for most of our products, because of the iconic and strong brand that we have, we did not have to discount. Our consumers and fans were happy to buy them at full price. And as a result, we actually generated one of our healthiest financial margins in the third and fourth quarter of 2020, the year of the pandemic. In addition, while stores were closed, we turned them into fulfillment centers and were able to ship directly from stores orders that our consumers had placed online, thus getting them faster to consumers and also, again, optimizing costs in getting better service to our consumers. So these are just sprinkles of examples of how we mobilized around the world to create a deeper and better customer experience and to be an even more financially viable and healthy company.
Wow, goodness me, what a start. Katia, thank you so much for that. I mean, what a strong user case for using data and analytics to ensure that you are flexible, adaptable, and using the best capabilities you have to deal with the challenges in front of you. So thank you, Katia, for that. So I'll open it up to the other panelists. Nico, how about yourself? How have you been adapting to change in supply and demand, and how has the data analytics team been supporting that and the wider business?
Well, I will tell you, 2020 was a very interesting year for us in grocery retail. First of all, we were privileged to have a great workforce that maintained our stores open. And I think all of us as a society benefited from. So I extend my gratitude to all my teammates that supported us through the pandemic. But early days for us was guaranteeing business continuity. As you may imagine, most CPGs, historically have integrated their supply chains to be more of a just-in-time type of manufacturing, and just-in-time production lines are not ready for the peaks in demand that we saw during March and April of 2020. So I would say we clearly benefited from having started with our analytics initiative department over the last 2 or 3 years. So we did have some analytic capability in-house with a data analytics team, business intelligence teams, data science team. I think it really, 2020, particularly the spring and summer, put our agile methodologies at test. There was a lot of experimentation and innovation on how to tackle some of the supply chain disruption and problems we were having. So long hours, long days. But I think what it really clarified towards 2020 and the future is that investments in the area require time. Grocery retail and retailer in general is a business that at the outset may seem simple, but is fairly complex. So you have to invest early, and we clearly saw that those department and business units that had that early adoption of analytics before the pandemic benefited tremendously leveraging those assets during the pandemic. So I will start there. Then other things that we saw emerging is, the utilization of advanced analytics techniques to help us assort, and maybe going back to what Katia was saying, it help us understand, there's certain items in the store that didn't necessarily even move during the pandemic. So we brought an assortment optimization view into our store. E-commerce, needless to say, I think probably all of us here in this room and many others were either e-commerce customers before the pandemic for groceries. But another thing we saw is an acceleration there. We believe that the pandemic accelerated up to 5 years in terms of adoption. So as a company, we double our baselines of e-commerce sales, and that is basically a prime area for us to embed even more analytic solution when it comes to personalization, which I think we'll touch on later today. Katia, you mentioned automation, and I think emerging from COVID, with all of us working remotely and then maybe having less office time, we all realized, there's a series of redundant meetings and redundant processes that were not needed anymore. And that was prime for automations. We're embarking into what I will call is creating a smart workflows that help us prioritize and optimize our prices, our promotional cadence, our assortment, our space planning, and even how our stores look. So I would say towards 2021 and the future, 2020 has only accelerated this strategy, and it has made very, very clear that those earliest investment pay off. So that's what I would say. It's from a grocery perspective, we benefited with significant demand and seeing demand, but you always have to meet demand, right? So I think for us, the future is one of how do we keep integrating and working better and closer with our supplier partners to make sure that we can meet demand and meet customers where they need us.
Absolutely fantastic. Nico, you're not the first to tell me that those who were already on this journey, having had COVID put in the path, are further forward than those who are having to stand up so much whilst dealing with the barriers and challenges presented by COVID as well. So I think if you've been proactive, then you're certainly in a far better position. Absolutely. Now, we have had a question sent in from the audience. I'm going to quickly derail to that one because Christophe, I think you'd like to have an answer to it. So Sean's written in and says, hearing AI and ML benefits is fantastic. Would like to hear the speed of process. How long did it take your teams to get the data and analyze and take action on the insight? Ballpark, of course. Thank you for adding in that part at the end. So Christophe, if you'd like to answer that one, that'd be great.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I think we maybe on the Danone side, I mean, when this arrived, my team was just 1 month old, and we had 2 or 3 internals, new people coming in. So I think the time for reaction was not the expected. But at the same time, it was not the time of reaction that for us was a realization, in that it took almost 2 months to gather data from 3 countries. Danone is a very decentralized company. Data maturity is really on its way. It's data transformation we are going through now. And just to gather the data from China, Spain, and France, because this is what was interesting for me, to compare different status of different countries in terms of pandemic status to see, okay, what's going to happen and that we can plan for other countries to come. But this took us a few months to align on this data. To provide a dashboard, to provide insight on data, it can take a week, 2 weeks max. But what was important first, and that was the realization, is the data maturity, the data quality needs to be there. If you don't have that, then you can do insight in 1 week, but it's insight, we know what we say, and garbage in, garbage out. So we were not able to help as much as we would have liked, and we could have, because of the data maturity. And I think this is for me one of the most realization that this pandemic happened for at least a DNA perspective, a data analytics perspective within Danone ecosystem is we need to take care of the patron. We need to take care of the data because without that, we cannot drive any decision with the right approach. So for us, unfortunately, it was not 1 week or 2 weeks, it was much longer than that. And it was too long in a way for business to take a good decision and to adapt.
Thank you so much. I think what's quite great about this panel is it's very diverse because Katia, I think you'd say actually that the timeline was quite short, wasn't it, in comparison?
Yes, and I think Nico alluded to how everything was accelerated. In fact, I'm reminded of a quote, and I never thought I'd be quoting Lenin. I grew up in communist Bulgaria, so Lenin was all around me, and I never thought I'd be quoting Lenin in 2021. But here I am quoting Lenin, who said, "There are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen." And that is the year 2020 for all of us, including the team that I mentioned at Levi, Strauss & Company. In normal times, it would take weeks and months to procure the data to make sure it's there, that the quality is right, the integrity is correct. But in the time of COVID, it took hours and days, and it all at once, we were able to deliver value, to keep building something new because it was something new, we're still building it, and to also transform the company. So something that usually takes years, deliver value, build, transform, and is usually done in a sequence, we had accelerated and compressed thanks to a crisis turned into an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's bring Sean and Luiz into this discussion. Luiz, how about yourself? How have you been adapting to change in supply and demand, and how have your data analytics teams been supporting that?
Yeah, I think everything that was commented here before, it's something that somehow we face the same. So just to add on the things, I believe that having well-structured teams makes the difference on speed and on quality as well. Also, we partner with like Microsoft to help us in a couple of things that we're doing in our platform, speeding this up, like implementing ML as a couple of folks described it before, for specific products and so on. But I believe that the really bringing the data from consumer insights to the customers, because our market was really affected and it's being affected during the pandemic, because as you know, all small and medium business, they are closing due to everything that's happening. So how we could provide different services for them and adapt even their business with insights, I think would be the most incredible thing that we could do in a very short time. So we invested a lot in the e-commerce space in the past few years, and we could boost our ecosystem to our customers. And I believe that this could potentially make the difference for them and make them even stay longer in their business, because as you know, they were disrupted. So having the team in place, having the right insights and making the cycle run, I think it was one of the things that you try to speed. And as you know, our footprint is spread in many different countries. So the pandemic hit us like in many different places in different times. That's what made us like learn fast, because it started in China, so we could like collect the data first and understand what was going on. And then when it was kind of hitting the other markets, we kind of we're learning. Of course, there were differences, but the data that we brought from the first market to the second, to the third, to the fourth, I think it's something that we could learn on the fly, and was really great to have like the ecosystem connected.
Fantastic, brilliant. And then to round off this particular discussion then, Sean, if you'd like to add in your perspective from Claire's.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the least AI/ML needed answer of all of them. You know, for us, given our primary consumer being the younger girl, we weren't sure what was going to happen, because we're mall based, we're very dependent on that traffic, and so after restrictions started being lifted in the summer, late spring, we weren't sure how she was going to react, and so what the biggest need for us that happened, and I was talking to you about this pre live stream, Catherine, was we found that piercing was incredibly huge upon reopening, and you know, we don't have the official data to say it in any kind of statistical way, but we think we think at our companies, because there's a certain level of normalcy that having your ears pierced is a life event for a girl. I have 3 daughters myself. It's a big deal, and so upon coming back, we had stores that might pierce one person a day. Typical low volume stores that were all of a sudden piercing dozens instantly. And so from a labor, from a stock, from a everything perspective, we had to ramp back up. But we didn't need AI or ML for that. It was the stores were screaming as soon as it was happening because they were going, holy cow, we've never seen anything like this. But how that stabilized though quickly became a question of how long is this going to continue? How far can this go? And we've been fortunate enough. There must be, there's a lot of ears out there that need piercing. It hasn't slowed down yet for us, and so we're very happy with that. But yeah, it was more just we didn't need the advanced stuff. It was such a shock to the system that it was obvious. Get out there, get it done. It was more just working with our suppliers to make sure we could keep up.
Absolutely. What an interesting perspective to bring in. Thank you, Sean. And obviously it would be brilliant to have that customer data to really understand why there was that influx. But for me, I mean, you always need something positive to look forward to. And I'm sure many little girls were like, when this is all over, you can have your ears pierced and you have something to hold on to. So when those lockdowns and restrictions were over, I'm sure they were kind of bringing in that promise for certain. Right, let's turn the conversation towards the future then. Of course, if any comments come in from the audience, we will revert back. But how have you had to pivot your data analytics strategy for 2021? Obviously, so much has changed and so much is still changing, especially as those that are joining us on the call are from all over the world right now. So I appreciate there's some geographical differences in restrictions currently as well. So what does that strategy look like and how have you had to pivot it? Luiz, I'll come to you first for that one.
I guess one of the great things is that we have this customer centricity in our company, that we know that we need to be close to them to understand their pain points and so on. I think this highlighted a lot of things that we could boost. And because of data and the insights, we could even think about how to launch new products and even new things to support our customers. I think the main thing also is that we could adapt everything that we were doing in our plant, in our breweries, to support the local community. Like, for example, adapting our lines to provide hand sanitizer, or even to provide like plastic masks, because we have plastic, because we have alcohol. So how can we help, as we were stopped because of the pandemic, of course, and we could do something for the community. So we could force ourselves to understand with our assets, what could we boost in the ecosystem and make sure that we could provide to our customers like a longevity in their business because of the disruption. So I would say that having the right data in place first could enable us to think about alternatives to help, and not only on our side, but on the customer side, really having them on the center of everything that we're doing. And second, of course, for us, at the end, we could boost a couple of things that we were doing. And really, maybe if it was a little bit out of speed, let's say, we could boost and put the resource in the right place to make sure that the alternatives were there. Like, for example, last mile delivery for the customers. For example, making sure that they had the assets where they need to make sure that they would be open a little bit longer. So again, with the data, we could get insights and provide new products to our customers. I think this is how we kind of pivot a little bit the things that you're doing.
Fantastic. I'm seeing comments come in, so I'm slightly distracted. So many screens open right now. But Katia, your quote of Lenin went down a storm in the comments, I can see. So let's keep it going. Thank you so much, Luiz, for that about pivoting in the future. Nico, how about yourself? How has your strategy changed and how have you had to pivot?
Yeah, I think the word to describe is probably acceleration. We'll continue to see acceleration of adoption of advanced analytics and technologies across the enterprise. We do believe, we're traversing that stage in our strategy where it's it's not just a business unit or a department-centric function such as IT or finance, or now we're seeing analytics being embedded throughout our departments and business units. The other thing that I will say is, obviously analytics was a key pillar for us to navigate the pandemic and emerge from it. But clearly there's a new normal where, there's certain customers' expectations that are set in terms of in-stock position, price points, availability of product, and promotional cadence that are becoming a new normal. So how do we adjust our processes using advanced analytics to meet the customer where the customers are? We're firm believers on experimentation and small scale proof of concepts. And I think that was one of the big wins, started earlier on about 3 years ago, establishing proof of concepts with many, many different technologies that helps us scale, and we're fit for purpose when we navigated the pandemic and as we emerge. So our size gives us the ability to experiment and quickly understand if a fit or a solution, or if a solution or a software will fit our needs. I will say talent is probably is and will continue to be a priority for us. So being located in the Midwest, sometimes we are perceived as a flyover states from the coasts. And I think this is presenting us with an opportunity to expand our talent pool and also emerge from the pandemic as victorious in what we're able to accomplish using advanced analytics and data science. I'll leave the team with a thought. We're seeing that more and more, traditionally, if you think 5 years ago, the cost of prediction was high. So you had to build a system, most likely on-prem. Cloud computing gave us the scalability and access to build predictions. And now more and more, most of off-shelf software solutions are bringing predictions. So we believe in the future, prediction costs will continue to decrease, and that will increase adoption, not just in your traditional processes of supply chain and forecasting, but it will bring predictions to all functions of the enterprise. Legal, HR, finance. You're going to start to see prediction there. So our strategy is one that embeds analytics into every function to start with early adoption of those advanced analytic techniques across the enterprise. So acceleration is the word, but also keeping a pulse on this new normal and what possibilities that presents, but also what threats that we need to quickly react and understand.
Fantastic. I love that. It's always a very exciting time in the data analytics department, and certainly now more than ever, because as you say, so many are innovating and using this time to build from where we are, ready for the next challenge indeed. Sean, how about yourself? What does that strategy look like for you, and how have you had to pivot?
Yeah, it's funny. We started our digital transformation as a company overall right before March of last year. And so all of the work was being done to align on systems and strategies and the long range plan. And then all of a sudden the world broke. And so for us, it didn't change anything. It's just, what did we have to play around with our prioritization of what comes first and how quickly we get it done. And so really that was the amazing thing, is we were right on the cusp of doing all of that anyway. It was just a matter of what did we need to bring in much quicker for our e-com group to be able to support the rapid growth that they had, given that our stores were closed for 3 months. And as you well know, in Europe, Catherine, most of them are closed again for a very long time. And it's amazing to see that all of it's going hand in hand with what's going on in the world and preparing us for it. And I think that's really what the pandemic's done, is it hasn't changed our purpose or what we need to do as companies to stay in the game with a consumer who is so wedded to this that everything should be as easy as this and everything should revolve around this, right? That's the way our consumers are going. And so it's just given us extra focus on that, and leaders who are potentially waffling, they know for their companies, there's no more of that. It's got to be a direct line for that. And for our world, especially, we've already heard it multiple times on the data quality. That's one of the biggest things. If we're going through all this transformation now, we have the ability to build it right from the start and build a data foundation that's there. So like I felt Christophe's pain of what is it like to even know what happened yesterday? It can be very painful depending on where we're trying to find that out from. And so the ability to make those things ubiquitous, democratized, and widely available, especially building on Nico's comment on just the ability to get talent in a remote world. Onboarding people, the tribal knowledge has to go away, because the only way you're going to be able to have a remote workforce that's capable fast is if everything is democratized. The data dictionaries are there, the metadata is well understood, and the reporting and metrics are clear and obvious to anybody, and the lineage of where they come from is clear and obvious. I think that's what's amazing about us having just started this and doing it right now, is we have a chance to do all of that very cleanly with all new systems. And that's where we're at. So it's really exciting.
Absolutely. Very exciting indeed. I'm so conscious of time. We're over 30 minutes into our 45-minute session. So I'm going to switch up the question just because I want us to cover as much as we can in this session. So my next question to you, panel, is how have you been mastering the challenge of balancing outstanding customer service and personalization with the respect for customer privacy? Now, I know this balancing act is certainly a challenging one, so I'm very excited to hear how you've been mastering that. So Katia, I'll come to you first for that one.
Sure. I'll answer that, but could I also answer the question about pivoting our strategy? Because it was an important one. And the reason I quoted Lenin is because we have been in the midst of nothing short of a revolution. One day we'll look back, and one, we will not believe we made it through this, but second, we will actually be proud of this time and everything we've achieved. And I would say that we used this and we pivoted our strategy to poise ourselves for digital disruption of the entire industry. Think about it for a moment. The way that apparel has been manufactured and sold has not really changed. Levi Strauss himself founded this company, this category of denim, 167 years ago. Now we have an opportunity to completely turn this around, and that's exactly what we are doing. And we can do that because we do have 167 years worth of data, which very few other companies have. We literally can tell you how the size of American consumers' waists has changed in the past 2 centuries. Think about that as well. We have a global footprint. We have wholesale and direct-to-consumer connections. We have certainly online and physical stores, and we have a track record of innovation. For example, we have a laser finishing technology that literally sets jeans on fire to finish them. So these are just some examples, but the point is that we use this time as an opportunity to get ready to disrupt the industry. So in terms of privacy, always a big question. And to be fully transparent, this is nothing new. This is nothing that would change with the crisis. This is something that is imperative at all times. That is why when we work with data, it is a tremendous privilege, but also responsibility to treat the customers, the consumers' data with tremendous care. And we approach it the same way regardless of the times. Yes, we want to provide deep personalization for our fans, but we also do it with utmost care. We have a code of conduct that every one of our data professionals has to sign. That's on top of the access and security controls, on top of everything else that you can imagine from a compliance perspective. But we also want to make sure that we have all the controls in place. The cloud environment that I think one of our colleagues just mentioned, before anything goes in there, the data becomes completely anonymized. It's not tokenized, it's actually anonymized. And even in that instance, we still have our data scientists signing a code of conduct that they will not do any harm, just like a medical doctor signs a Hippocratic oath. So we can go on and on about that, but I hope that gives you a flavor, Catherine and panel.
Absolutely, and we're going to keep it going because we're getting so many questions come in now, so I'm conscious of time. So Christophe, how about you? How have you been dealing with that challenge of trying to deliver that outstanding personalization, but then also that customer privacy?
Yeah, I think I will go with Katia here. It's nothing has changed. It was already on the plate to take care of consumer data and privacy. I think we have exactly the same as what she described. We put the system in place, the anonymization system in place, and we are currently including a development of ethical use of AI, internally with the right committee and so on, to make sure that indeed what we do and what we use as data is as per an ethical guideline, and that we take care of not going out of legal boundaries for sure. So I think for me, this is not something new. It is something we have to take care since our GPD and even before. And it's just an occasion for us to strengthen how important it is to keep this privacy, because otherwise we cannot do good business. So I think we have to get the trust of consumer, keep the trust of consumer, because we know it's only take one step to lose it. And definitely on this, we should do everything not to lose any inch of consumer trust when it comes to their privacy.
Absolutely.
So we have to find techniques and that are good and ethical. And this is where machine learning and data science comes with magic, but also limitation.
Absolutely, fantastic. Now, Jack has written in and says, using predictive analytics for scheduling has helped retailers more accurately estimate customer demands in each store and allocate the right levels of staff. This has added many benefits, including fewer wasted hours in stores. Since the pandemic, how are you attributing the final point of sale? Are online sales attributed to the most local stores on IP address? Getting attribution wrong, and it could lead to shutting stores unnecessarily. Luiz, I'll come to you for an answer on that one.
Sure. It depends on the country that you are and the technology that's available there, and not only that, but the data that you have for the country that you're going. So we try to use as much as we can Google to make sure that you are going to the right place, to make sure that when you talk about physical stores, right? When you talk about physical stores, that you have the right lat long and your delivery is going to the right place, that your sales force is going to the right place, and so on. So we try to use. There is some challenges, of course, depending on the country, due to same name of street, or sometimes we don't have map, or sometimes we don't have or we have one customer. Think about a bar that we can have one bar right above the other, or the number is 1 and the other is B. So there is a lot of situations that we try to use tech to make sure that we are having more accuracy. When you think about online, of course, every time that there is from the offline to online, you have the challenge on having the right data and the right, because sometimes the person that is going to fill the fields, they don't exactly put in the right order, or with the right length, or with the right spelling, and then there is this another challenge for us to make sure that we are cleaning and making sure that we have the right address. So there is the challenge from the offline to the online, but also the offline we try to use as much as we can techniques that will avoid us to have mistakes. But again, depending on the country, and we have a large footprint, that's a really depend question, I would say.
Thank you, Luiz. Thank you for going into such depth there. Very, very interesting. Nico, would you like to add in on to that question?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll leave it to add there. I think emerging from the pandemic, customers are landing with a new set of expectations, right? This acceleration in omni-channel is creating the expectation of product availability through digital or brick and mortar at all times, right? So I think it goes above and beyond the question of attribution, at least in our business, but it's more about how do we create a journey that is truly omni-channel, that meets customers where they are, that creates that retention, that return to our stores or to our e-commerce site or to our app. And that comes, is a culmination of the orchestration of many technologies in our technology stack, but also all the proper event data hooks and the ability to understand what is that path that our customers are taking that leads to conversion. So I would say, attribution is always going to be a topic that is difficult. There's been many studies on where and how to attribute conversion or a sale. there's never going to be a right answer. But what I can tell you is that customers' expectations have increased, and this acceleration, is not free for retailers. I think you're going to see over the next 24 months a significant increase in the level of investment of truly developing omni-channel resilience and availability of product, right? And those that don't develop that are going to be left at the cost of losing customers.
100%. Thank you, Nico. Now, we only have 2 minutes left. And as with all my panels, I always love to do a kind of final thoughts before we part ways for the day. So if there's one key message that you would like to give your fellow data analytics executives in the community to take forward with them after watching this panel discussion, what would that be? Sean, I'll come to you first.
It goes back to, I think, the comment on the data quality. We can do all the math in the world, but if it's on data that we've got to spend too much time cleansing, or operationally it's not properly categorized to get the insights the business leaders need, we're going to struggle to provide the value that everybody wants from the amazing work that the masters and PhDs and all these data scientists and analysts can do. And so it really goes back to working very closely with your business to understanding what they need to know, how they need to know it, and what they want to figure out and solve, so that you can build the systems to put the data there for everybody that can be used.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today. Nico, how about you? What's the one key takeaway you want everyone to bring from this panel?
I would say it was going to start to sound like a broken record, with data governance and really leveraging advanced analytics techniques to govern your data, clean your data at all times, particularly for those businesses that tend to be global in nature. I would say manage the function and truly embed the function throughout the organization. These are not anymore, IT or CIO level of initiatives. They need to be enterprise initiatives. And, I would say for companies of all size, attempt to manage your initiative, your analytics initiative, as a portfolio where you have to be experimenting and trying many, many things and learning quickly from them.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for joining us. Christophe, how about yourself?
So I'll try to be short. I would say consumer and business driven. We need to be. Data foundation at the heart of everything if you want to have fun, and high frequency data when it matters. Meaning, like, for example, in type of crisis, you may need to look at a day-by-day basis, while maybe in a normal time, you just need to look at a monthly basis or weekly basis. So capability of your system to drill down to different granulometry depending on situation.
Thank you so much. Katia, how about yourself?
So I'll say something a little different. I know this is the business of data, but I will actually say this is not about the data. My one key message is we're talking about the magic combination of digital, data, and AI. Digital makes data big, and we may not like the term, but that's why we have so much more data now than we have ever had before. And it's data that makes machine learning and AI possible, which in turn makes digital smarter. So it's not about the data, it's about the impact that we have an opportunity to make on our consumers, on our company, on our industry. That's why I talked about disruption, and overall on our society. Thank you.
Katia, I can always count on you to add in a different perspective. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Luiz, what is your key takeaway you want everyone to bring with them after this panel?
Yeah, just again resonates like on everything that was said about having the right data and with quality. Put your customer in the center of everything that you're doing. Not necessarily you need to embed the tech in everything that you're doing. Sometimes it's like slightly change on the process. You can like have a great outcome in this difficult moments that we are. So I would say that make sure that you have the right data, use the right data, establish a good partnership with your business, and make sure that not necessarily are making things complex all the time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, just like that, we are out of time. time. What a brilliant panel discussion. Now, just before you part ways, and if you're in the UK, perhaps you're going to be finishing your day. If you're in the US, of course, you'll be going into your afternoon. So thank you for joining us. Now, this event is part of a series. Next month, we will be bringing you a panel discussion in the financial service sector, and the following month will be the government and public sector. So I'm very, very excited for those coming up as well. But do be sure to subscribe to the Business of Data platform, where this will be living on demand with also a editorial write-up as well. So if you want access to that, make sure you are subscribed. That also includes a weekly newsletter and all of our content, podcasts, webcasts, you name it, it's on there. So make sure that you subscribe to get it. Make sure you're following us on LinkedIn as well, because that alerts you to these wonderful LinkedIn lives. And my last shout out is, if you are on Clubhouse, we host a Business of Data Power Hour every Friday. It's an absolutely brilliant community room, and I'd love to see you in there. But for now, thank you to my panelists, and thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you real soon.